All right, next up, sticking with the heavyweight division, we got Shamil Gaziev coming in at plus 125, going up against Brando Pericic, who comes in at minus 145. Now, it's crazy what a fall from grace Gaziev has had ever since coming to the UFC, right? Came in, had a big UFC debut finish over Martin Budai, and he gets immediately injected into a main event against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He had a decent start to that fight, but it really started to fall off for him in the ensuing rounds as Rozenstruik was able to stop the takedowns of Gaziev. Gaziev seemed to slow down tremendously, and Rozenstruik was able to pick him apart until we saw Gaziev eventually quit on the stool after round 4. He was able to pick up 2 big wins after that, grinding out Dontel Mays, almost making a statement that he can go 15 minutes if he needs to, and then was able to pick up that big knockout victory over Thomas Peterson. But then he struggled big time against Waldo Cortez Acosta, who was way more athletic, was able to stop the takedowns, and then eventually knock out Gaziev with his superior striking game. Now, I don't think Gaziev is going to be that star that a lot of people were thinking he was going to be after that win over Martin Budai, right? Especially with the UFC throwing him right into a headliner against Rozenstruik. But I still think he's a fighter that can, be kind of dominant in the current UFC heavyweight landscape. When he can get to his takedowns, he's very dominant from that top position, and he does a great job in terms of working to finishing positions and getting guys out of there as well. He's also got some big power in his hands when he really lets his hands go, as long as he's not fighting a technically superior striker like Rozenstruik or Cortez Acosta. I think people are just kind of, that Toy Story meme where you see, the kid throwing Woody away. It almost feels like a lot of the fans are doing that to Gaziev right now, hence why he finds himself as the underdog in this spot. I still think he has something good to give to the UFC. I think he's still a strong enough grappler to find good success against the right stylistic clash. And I think his cardio is not as bad as most people make it seem. As long as he's not going out there and just shooting takedowns relentlessly, maybe mixing in the striking a little bit more comfortably, then getting to his wrestling, that's where he can be a lot more successful. Now, he's going up against Brando Pericic, who's obviously blasted into the UFC now. 2 straight knockout victories. The first over Alicia Ellison, I believe that was back in September, where he was able to stop the takedowns of Ellison. Ellison ended up pulling guard and then got TKO'd very badly. Then the Louis Sutherland fight stopped a few takedowns from Sutherland, battered him on the feet, and eventually got a finish in less than 2 minutes. But this is a guy I still believe has some of those grappling holes in his game. He just hasn't fought the good enough wrestler yet to really take full advantage of that. The one loss on his record is coming to a guy that was able to take him to the ground repeatedly and eventually get that submission finish. Obviously, Pericic has gotten much better since that fight, right? He's had the experience. He's on a 4-fight winning streak now. He's doing the little things to stop these takedowns. He's digging the underhooks. He's widening his base. He's doing all the little things, but guys haven't been able to properly chain wrestle against him. They just seem absolutely terrified of his power. But if you go out there and are able to strike with him a little bit and then surprise him with the takedown, I think that's still available. And I think he's still early enough in his UFC career where, there are still those questions, but is that public turn towards him where they're like, all right, we're willing to make him a favorite. We're willing to back this hype and this knockout power that he has. But I still believe that there are some holes in his grappling game that can potentially be taken advantage of with the right stylistic matchup. And I feel he's facing that this weekend with Shamil Gaziev. Gaziev initially started as a volleyball player, right? He came to the mixed martial arts game much later in his career than most mixed martial artists, but he was so strong, explosive, and athletic with his grappling that he was able to go out there and just dominate these guys on the mat and have really good success with getting them out of there pretty quickly. Obviously, with a couple losses in his career, he's been able to, try to change up his game a little bit more, try to trust his striking a little more. And it's without a doubt that Pericic is the better striker here. But as long as Gaziev's not completely terrified of him on the feet, I think he can mix in the perfect takedown here to get Pericic to the ground. I think Gaziev is strong enough, explosive enough, and a good enough wrestler to actually get Pericic to the ground and hold him there and eventually muster up a TKO or a submission of some sort. So I'm going to fade Pericic here. I'm going to go Gaziev. I think Gaziev will get the positions that he needs. It wouldn't even surprise me if Gaziev actually wants to throw down and maybe try to get his power to translate. But I think he would be better off striking a little bit, mixing in the takedown behind it, and then try to get to a finish from there. So I'm going to go with the underdog here. I'm going to go Gaziev. I'm going to put some belief in him here and fade a little bit of the hype that is on Pericic right now, as I'm still not fully sold that he has improved his grappling enough to deal with somebody like Gaziev. So give me Shamil and Shamil inside the distance.